Preparing for a safe and productive experience. If you buy a new power tool or food processor, you will probably skip the safety information and go straight to the description of how to use your new appliance. We do need to spend time considering safety and stability, but this really is an important consideration in the context of childhood trauma. It's essential that people who experienced childhood harm are reasonably safe and stable before they start working at understanding and processing past issues. And even if they feel reasonably stable before starting this work, it's common to experience some challenges to stability along the way. Stretching and warming up muscles before a workout can prevent an injury. In the same way, being prepared to spot and respond to instability is the best means of protecting yourself if it occurs. Aside from stability simply being a good thing, there is another reason why it's important. Even with the support of therapy, about 20% of people drop out of the work they are doing. A common reason why people disengage from therapy or personal development work is because they begin to lose confidence in their stability in response to exploring their past experiences. You're much less likely to benefit from therapy or personal development programs if you drop out. And considering safety and stability at the outset increases the chances that you will make it right to the end. Program guidelines. If you're going to have a successful experience with this program, you're going to need to feel emotionally and physically safe. Your working relationship with facilitators and other members is a partnership with responsibilities involved all around. The guidelines below have worked well in many previous HTP groups. However, do talk them through with your facilitators, as the guidelines may need to work a bit differently from what you will find below, depending on local circumstances or the particular group you are joining. This is not a contract, like when someone buys a mobile phone or starts a job, but your agreement with the guidelines indicates that you understand and accept them. Historical Trauma Program Guidelines. Confidentiality. It's important that participants protect the identity of other group members. This does not mean you cannot discuss what happens in the group with people in your life. But if you do, it's essential that you never reveal the identity of other group members. You also agree to refrain from referring to other group members or facilitators on social networking sites, as this makes the program less secure for all. Facilitators also have a duty to protect your identity and to keep confidential what you communicate, unless there is an agreement for a facilitator to make a communication. However, facilitators may have a professional obligation to break confidentiality in the event that a significant risk to a group member or others develops, or if there is a disclosure of a very serious crime, e.g., using illegal drugs is not a serious crime. If this boundary feels at all unclear, please discuss it with your facilitators. Attendance and communication. The program develops progressively with each session, building on previous sessions, so it is essential that members attend on a regular basis. The HTP is not a drop-in program that members access when they feel like they need help. However, there can be genuine reasons why you may need to miss a session. If you are sick, encounter a crisis, have a significant conflict or planned holiday, please communicate with the facilitators to let them know you will not be attending a session. Also, it's important that you do not end your participation in the program suddenly and without discussion with your facilitators. Experience suggests that participants who miss more than 5 group sessions tend not to benefit. If a participant misses a 6th group session, it's normally best for them to exit the program. It may be possible for them to join an HTP program at a future time when they can engage consistently. If you need to cancel attendance for a particular session, Make contact in the following way. Please discuss this with facilitators. Finding your truth and avoiding groupthink. The guidebook contains many ideas and practices, but what you find here should not be considered the truth you are meant to accept. This is therapy, not a classroom. Each participant will discover what is true for themselves. We want to avoid groupthink, where everyone imagines they must see things in the same way. Facilitators have a role in guiding the group, but group sessions represent opportunities for exploration and respect for different experiences and views. Developing relationships with other group members. The vast majority of HTP groups have asked members not to develop personal relationships outside of group sessions while the group is running, which includes contact through social media. This can have the benefit of helping the group to feel safer and be more stable. Members, of course, are free to develop relationships if they wish after the group finishes. However, some HTP groups may not have this rule in place. What is important is that the question of contact and communication outside of group sessions is agreed upon so that everyone feels clear concerning the boundaries. This can be discussed with your facilitators. Your role. Aspects of your role in the program include the following. 1. Members are asked to prepare for each session by reading the relevant section of the guidebook and doing the related exercises. 2. Members have a role in sharing their empathy, insight, and experience to help other participants. 3. Members have a role in doing what they can to keep themselves as safe and stable as possible, and discussing any issues of safety or stability with your facilitators or others supporting you. The facilitator's role. Facilitators are responsible for attending all sessions unless they are sick or dealing with an unavoidable conflict, being prepared for each session, and using their knowledge and experience as well as possible. Facilitators provide leadership concerning group sessions, attending to group and individual needs as sessions develop. Facilitators are also responsible for responding to group members' emerging needs and difficulties within the remit of the time and resources available to them. Taking a break and letting the group know what you need. It's possible that during a group session, a member might begin to feel overwhelmed by feelings or impulses. If you can stay in the session, talk about the reaction, and let people know what you need, that's often helpful. However, members with abuse histories were often in situations where they were unable to escape, and it's important to know that you are not trapped in the room. If you need to take a break, that's fine. Just let the group know what you need and what you're doing. Please come back to the group as soon as you can. Communication between clinicians and participants. How communication works between facilitators and participants can vary depending on local needs, but it's important that there is a clear agreement. Members will need to communicate with facilitators if they are unable to attend a group session. There should also be agreement on who a member contacts if they are struggling psychologically between sessions, whether that is with a facilitator or other means of assistance. There should also be agreement on what services should be contacted if a member is in crisis or needs immediate help. The agreement concerning contact is as follows. Please discuss this with your facilitators. Suggestions on how to best use the guidebook. The guidebook has been rewritten many times in an attempt to include only what seems most essential to recovery. However, we appreciate that the guidebook can seem very big, and some might wonder if they can fit it into their lives. If the guidebook seems big, this reflects the fact that childhood trauma is normally experienced as a big problem. Our modern world is often about speed, and there is nothing necessarily wrong with that. If a 2-minute YouTube video can sort out your problem, That's great, but childhood trauma is a different sort of problem. Childhood trauma has deep roots and will not go willingly. This program is, therefore, designed to go at a fairly unhurried pace, and that's how we should suggest you relate to it. Many people we work with cope by rushing like mad, as if being chased, or coming to a dead stop and collapsing. These are ways of coping with experiences of threat that are based in the nervous system, which we will look at later. You will be encouraged to work with a guidebook in a gentle but sustained manner, giving yourself time to integrate what you discover in the context of your lived experiences. The chapters are not that long. They range from 8 to about 17 pages. You might imagine you could read through the book in a few weeks. However, we strongly recommend you do not approach things this way for a couple of reasons. First, the ideas and exercises you encounter here will stir up memories, feelings, and thoughts. After reading and doing exercises, it's helpful to just get on with life and give yourself time to reflect on or integrate what you are encountering. Anna experienced childhood physical and emotional abuse, and she described her experience this way. Quote, I could relate to most of the ideas without much trouble, and so I often just wanted to go straight on to the next chapter. But I realized that I needed to slow down because after finishing a chapter, I would keep thinking about what I read and seeing how these ideas related to my life and how I saw myself. End quote. You will encounter many important ideas while reading the guidebook, but this is a rather superficial form of learning. The most powerful way to understand these ideas is to see how they actually work in the context of your life and relationships. You will read about, for example, the impact of trauma on your body and nervous system, re-traumatization, and traumatic core beliefs. But you will get a much more powerful understanding of these ideas in relation to your lived experience. So the program requires reading and doing exercises, plus time to go and live your life. And some exercises are not done sitting at a table. They are done in response to life events, which can develop spontaneously. Working with a guidebook over approximately 6 months might seem like a long time, but consider this. You have struggled with past events and related psychological problems for most of your life. What's another 5 or 6 months in the greater scheme of things? This is your personal recovery, and even after doing this program, you won't be done. The guidebook is yours to use, develop, and keep for the rest of your life. You can underline, highlight, make notes in the page margins, do the exercises, draw pictures, etc. At the moment, this guidebook is identical to every other copy. When you finish, there will be a lot of you between these pages. The content of each chapter is designed to build on the chapters which came before it, so it's helpful to read the chapters in order. Certain earlier chapters offer opportunities for developing insight into the nature of childhood trauma. This work helps prepare you for later chapters, which focus more explicitly on remembering or processing historical trauma, and still later chapters which focus explicitly on recovery. Within this guidebook, you will encounter exercises encouraging you to reflect on your experience, past or present, and to express your thoughts and feelings. Many exercises offer an opportunity for writing. Some are checklists, and others are questionnaires. There is evidence that expressing yourself through writing can be helpful with respect to resolving past trauma and for general health. This makes sense. As we explore later, children who experience trauma often cope by not consciously absorbing what is happening to them. They split off or deny their own experiences. To survive, children often deny parts of who they are. Reflecting and exploring through writing can be a powerful way to integrate aspects of your experience and to get in touch with parts of you that had to be denied. However, exercises involving writing may feel intimidating for many who have had negative school experiences, have a learning difficulty such as dyslexia, or have problems with concentration. These issues are common for adults who have experienced childhood harm. If you struggle in any of these ways, we have a few pieces of advice. 1. Don't worry about getting anything right or wrong, or failing. Only you have the correct answer because you are reflecting on your own experience. 2. Writing is not the only way to respond to these exercises. Some will find it more beneficial to make drawings, write poetry, paint, or use other art media. If the amount of space offered in the guidebook is not sufficient, use more paper and place this work in the book. 3. If there are certain words you just can't write because it feels too distressing, perhaps using initials or some code. If putting something down on paper still feels impossible, see if you can talk it through with someone you trust or your clinician if you're in therapy. If you struggle with reading due to dyslexia or problems with concentration, there is a free audio version you can download from the HTP website or can access on YouTube. See copyright page at start of book. You will still require the guidebook to complete exercises. Some people using this program can feel unsure about how much of their work should be shared with others. Doing this program can give some people the confidence to talk more about what happened, and many have found it helpful to share the guidebook and work they're doing with others they trust. There is a truism which suggests that talking helps, and for many who experienced childhood harm, there is evidence that this is accurate. If you can share your work in the guidebook with someone you trust, we suggest you do that. Some people we have worked with have had powerful and therapeutic experiences by reading the guidebook with someone they trust or sharing their guidebook work. Others may talk to someone they trust about their work, but they want privacy concerning the writing they are doing in the guidebook. You should feel in control, so do what's right for you. If the reading or an exercise elicits disturbing emotions or impulses, don't force yourself to do it. If you're in therapy, tell your clinician what happened so they can give you more support. Otherwise, as you progress in the program, you may develop more confidence, making it possible to circle back to certain sections or exercises you felt the need to avoid earlier. Creating the necessary time and space. You will need some protected time and space to focus on the reading and exercises. Below you have a chance to think about when and where you will read the guidebook. Consider when you are less likely to encounter interruptions, and see if there is a way to make that time pleasant. First thing in the morning with a hot drink can work well for many people, or later on works better for others. The only time we find it doesn't work well is right before bed. You're usually tired, and the work can stir up memories and feelings, affecting your sleep. Exercise 1. Time and space for reading the guidebook. Below, describe what you see as the best time and place for you to work with the guidebook. Please pause the audio and complete exercise 1. Motivation. More complex than you might think. That was a quote from Charlie at the outset of the book, which we will repeat here. Quote, I think there's a part of me that wants to deal with what happened, and another part of me that tries to push it all away. Is that normal? End quote. If by normal we mean common, then yes, Charlie's experience is very normal. Pretty much everyone we know who has approached this program has experienced mixed feelings. There is a part of them that wants to get to grips with their past experience, to spend time remembering and making sense of what happened and the way it impacted their development, to work at making changes in how they think and cope, and to, hopefully, feel better about themselves and life. One of the biggest motivating factors For some is that they are just so fed up living with the impact of their past experiences on their daily lives. However, there is also another part of people who experience childhood harm that can resist or avoid doing this work, and there can be many genuine reasons for this. For example, learning about the effects of past trauma can be upsetting. Remembering what happened can feel worrying. Contemplating letting go of unhealthy ways of coping may not be something you want to do, and doing this work might affect your relationships in some way. Just thinking about your needs can be something many feel uncomfortable with. Sometimes the issue of motivation is looked at in quite a punitive way, as in, hey, that person just isn't motivated, suggesting laziness. But in the context of this program, it makes no sense to think of motivation in a punitive way. We need to consider it psychologically. In other words, it's understandable that a part of you wants to face this and a part of you wants to avoid it. For many, it isn't whether they do this program or use another model, it's about when they do it. Here is a question to consider. At this point in your life, is the part of you wanting to get to grips with your past and its impact on your life bigger than the part of you that doesn't want to deal with it? What is your gut response? If you want to go for it, that's great. If not, that's okay too. This program, or other models, will be here when you're ready. We knew one individual who left the guidebook on a bookshelf in her kitchen for almost a year. She told us she'd glance at it most days when making meals or doing the dishes, wondering when to start. So it took a while for her motivation to tip over and for her to get going. But when she did, she had a safe and helpful experience. Considering difficult life issues or distractions. The exercise below helps you consider your current stability and any distractions in your life. Have a look at the potential issues below that can interfere with security or stability and tick any that currently apply to you. If you tick certain issues, this doesn't necessarily mean you can't or shouldn't do this program, but you may need to sort some things out first. Exercise 2. Identifying difficult issues or distractions. Please pause the audio and complete exercise 2. We are not suggesting that your life needs to be completely sorted and that you should have perfect stability before you start this program. However, if you ticked any of the above issues or identified other significant issues not in the checklist, we suggest you consider two options. First, if a life challenge is worrying or distracting, it may be important to delay the program until you can sort it out or get through it. Second, perhaps you can start the program now, but you need the support of others to help you deal with certain issues. Recognizing destabilization during the program. Virtually everyone who does personal development work or therapy concerning childhood trauma will encounter difficult feelings, thoughts, and memories. This program will ask you to fully appreciate how childhood experiences have impacted your well-being, sense of self, relationships, and life development. You will be looking at patterns by which you have coped as an adult and how childhood pain has continued in adulthood, something called re-traumatization. Later, you will be asked to recall and explore childhood experiences and memories, something you may have needed to push away to a greater or lesser extent. All of this is important for developing personal insight, understanding your needs better, and developing a life less constrained by the past. But it can be upsetting, and feelings like anger, anxiety, fear, and sadness are normal. Anytime we use the word normal, we mean common. Amanda was a biology and chemistry teacher who was physically and emotionally abused by a stepmother and neglected by her father. An intelligent individual with a scientific and analytical mind, She found the HTP work emotionally challenging and put it like this, quote, "The guidebook can be upsetting, and at times I feel like I'm coming apart, but maybe that's how it works. Maybe you have to take something apart in order to understand it, and that allows you to put it back together in a new way, in a better way." End quote. We really liked Amanda's description because it captures the perils and opportunities of working with past trauma. The most common peril is probably destabilization, the sort of experience you can have when things are being pulled apart. So, what does destabilization mean? As you use this program, any difficult reactions you experience will hopefully be temporary and manageable. In other words, you will be able to largely manage these reactions and get back to your life when you need to. This is not what is meant by destabilization. Destabilization means experiencing feelings, thoughts, memories, or impulses that are distressing, difficult to put aside, and threatening to interfere with your ability to cope. We take the view that forewarned is forearmed. If you can spot destabilization, if it begins to happen, you will be more able to respond or get help. To support you in recognizing destabilization, we will describe the four most common ways it occurs and the window of tolerance, another helpful way to explain destabilization. We will then provide ideas about how you might respond so you can reestablish the stability necessary for your continued recovery. Emotional destabilization. It's common for people who experienced childhood harm to cope by pushing the past away. By engaging with this program, you will explore your past and its effect on your life, so you should not be surprised if things get emotional. Such emotional reactions will hopefully be manageable, and you can set them aside and get back to life when you need to. Emotional destabilization is occurring if you are experiencing powerful emotional reactions that feel overwhelming and which you are struggling to soothe or put aside. Destabilization in coping. You can probably identify with the idea that at times you cope in healthier ways, but at other times you can be vulnerable to coping in ways which undermine your personal development. Everyone is different, but difficulties in coping might mean over reliance on alcohol or drugs, an increase in obsessive compulsive behaviors, difficulties with food, isolating oneself from others, etc. Any impulses concerning suicide, deliberate self harming, or other risky behaviors are definite signs of destabilization concerning coping and should be taken seriously. If you encounter material in this guidebook that elicits painful feelings or memories, leading to deterioration in your ability to cope, this is an expression of destabilization. Destabilization concerning intrusive memories or a flashback. Many parts of the guidebook can cause you to recall events from your childhood, and you will be specifically asked to recall memories when you get into the middle of the program. It's normal to experience some difficult memories while doing this work, but ideally you can put them aside so you can get back to your life and relationships. The goal is remembering, not reliving. However, there is a possibility that exploring past events can cause you to experience painful, intrusive memories. While less common, it's possible that some could experience a flashback. The difference between an intrusive memory and a flashback is probably one of degree. An intrusive memory occurs if events from your past intrude into your consciousness in a distressing way that you are struggling to control or set aside. Intrusive memories can be distressing, but people can still largely stay connected to the reality around them. With a flashback, the images, emotions, and physical sensations are so powerful that someone can lose touch with reality, and it might seem like something bad is actually happening. It's hard to know what is real. If you are struggling with painful, intrusive memories which feel hard to manage or have a flashback, these are signs of destabilization. Shame response as destabilization. Shame is a complex and challenging issue for many people who experienced childhood harm, which is why we will explore this area in depth in Chapter 16. However, we mention it here briefly because just thinking about your past or how you have coped can elicit a shame response, and we want you to be aware of this from the outset. By shame, we are talking about experiencing painful feelings of self blame, badness, or a sense of inadequacy. Many people we work with can be self punitive concerning past experiences and the problems they have, which makes them vulnerable to experiencing shame. Just reading this guidebook and recalling past experiences can trigger a shame response for some, which could be destabilizing. In the next section, we will offer a suggestion as to how you can manage if you experience shame in relation to your recovery work. The window of tolerance. Developed by Daniel Siegel, the window of tolerance is a further way to appreciate if you are losing stability. Humans can flip into states of fight, flight, or freeze when we encounter or imagine we encounter a threat. Fighting or fleeing is consistent with a state of hyperarousal, a reaction characterized by emotions such as fear or anger. Alternatively, we can also cope with threats through freezing. This is a state of hypoarousal, characterized by emotional numbing, shutting down, or becoming immobilized. Between hyperarousal, intense emotions, and hypoarousal, numb emotions, is the window of tolerance, a place where you are focused on the present and experiencing more moderate levels of emotion. Please read through Table 1 and see what you can identify with. Please pause the audio here and have a look at Table 1. Why might those who experienced childhood trauma be more likely to flip into distressing states of hyperarousal or hypoarousal? One answer is that as children, they learned that hyperarousal or hypoarousal was an effective way of protecting themselves. A child may decide that being very alert and watching anxiously for any dangers, hyperarousal, will help them avoid harm. However, hyperarousal is more likely a means of coping if a child imagines that there is a way of escaping danger. If a child is overwhelmed by threat and believes that escape isn't possible, they can learn that shutting down emotionally or becoming numb, hypoarousal, is a good means of feeling less pain. So, people who experienced childhood harm often cope today through hyperarousal or hypoarousal simply because they learned to do it as a child. However, as you navigate this program and life situations, spending as much time as possible within the window of tolerance will be helpful. Being kicked out of the window of tolerance and into states of hyperarousal or hypoarousal can be seen as an expression of destabilization. If you can identify when you are being kicked out of the window of tolerance, this may help you respond in a way that helps you regain stability. Responding to destabilization. A state of destabilization can feel complex and is always specific to the context and the individual. So, there is no particular skill that is always appropriate or helpful in respect to regaining stabilization. Several skills to support stabilization are woven throughout the program. However, we thought it was important to offer certain skills at the front end of the guidebook, just in case you need them. Finding the right balance between exposing yourself to the work in the guidebook and retaining stability is important. In other words, you want to get close enough to memories and ideas to develop useful insight, but not so close that you get overwhelmed. Distraction or permission to avoid certain material. If there is a particular section of reading or an exercise you don't feel ready to do, that's okay. We've seen many people return to exercises later in their recovery when they feel ready, which is fine. If you sense that destabilization is occurring, you can also take a break and distract yourself. Leave it alone for a while and immerse yourself in life, relationships, or projects. You can then return to the work you are doing when you feel ready. Distraction or temporary avoidance, when necessary, can be a good response if you are destabilized by emotions, intrusive images, or struggling with coping. Grounding. Grounding can be useful if you struggle with disturbing memories, intrusive images, or emotions that threaten to overwhelm you. It can also be especially helpful if you are having a flashback. As mentioned, intrusive memories can be a feature of a flashback, but the images, emotions, and the physical sensations are so powerful that a person can lose touch with reality, and it might seem like something bad is actually happening again. A grounding exercise is anything that can keep you connected to reality. If you are grounded, you are connected to the immediate world around you. You can feel yourself sitting in the chair, and you can hear and see what is happening around you. There are different grounding exercises, and we offer three below. One of these may have more appeal to you than the others. 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. Look around and name 5 things you can see. Now, focus your attention on 4 things you can feel. Next, focus next, name 3 things that you can hear around you. Next, focus attention on 2 things that you can smell around you right now. Lastly, find some food which is handy. Focus on what you can taste. 2. You can focus strongly on the objects in your immediate surrounding. Say to yourself, I'm safe and I'm here in my. Then closely observe the objects around you and describe them, e.g., this is my kitchen, those are our dinner plates, this is the table we eat at, etc. 3. You can get back to reality by reminding yourself of who you are. My name is, I'm years old, I live at, the friends and family in my life are, etc. Keep listing everything about yourself and life which seems important. If you get to the end and everything still feels unreal, start going through the list again. Some find it helpful to write out the text of the grounding exercise and then keep this with them at all times. If they get triggered and begin to experience intrusive memories or a flashback, they can access the grounding exercise quickly and with greater confidence. Responding to a shame response. As mentioned, a shame response involves feelings of inadequacy, self-blame, or a sense of badness. It's possible that just reading this book and doing the exercises can trigger feelings of shame. In Chapter 16, we will examine shame in detail and explore how it is fundamentally an unhelpful emotion in the context of childhood trauma. For the moment, we ask you to trust us on this point. If you begin to punish yourself for the past or how you have coped while engaging with this program, we encourage you to do a couple of things. First, reassure yourself that shame is a very common response for people who experience childhood harm. Second, see if you can get hold of the idea that shame is not helpful for developing insight or recovery. Imagine that shame is this road you can go down. Literally, imagine a road sign labeled shame. And this road you can go down is made of self-blame and a sense of badness. And if you come across that road while doing this program, don't go down it. Here's why you shouldn't. At every turn, we want you to look at what happened and how you have coped psychologically, not from any perspective of self-blame, self-punishment, or shame. Recovery certainly includes taking responsibility for your behavior, but trauma-based shame, as we will explore, does not help in this respect. Also, if you feel shame concerning decisions you made or how you have coped, try to see it with self-compassion, keeping in mind that your past experiences will have set you up for problems later on. In other words, there are reasons why you may have acted or coped as you did. This is a point we will reinforce several times during the program. So, if a shame response begins to push you towards destabilization, please try to care for and reassure yourself, or seek reassurance from others you trust if you can. Safe place imagery. If you have flipped into a fight or flight response, hyperarousal, as a response to a genuine threat, hyperarousal is the right response and you need to get safe. However, if you are experiencing fear or anger, which is trauma-based and out of proportion to any real threats, it makes sense to calm the state of hyperarousal itself. Creating and accessing a safe place through imagery might seem silly or pointless, but there is an interesting reason why it can help calm a state of hyperarousal. The structures in your brain responsible for firing up a hyperarousal response, sympathetic nervous system, will respond either to an actual threat in front of you, a traumatic memory which has been triggered, or calming imagery, such as a safe place. The sympathetic nervous system can't really distinguish events out there from events in your mind, or actual memories from images you create. So imagining a safe place can calm a state of hyperarousal. Just like traumatic images, worry or facing a threat in life can activate hyperarousal. If you are facing a genuine and immediate threat and experiencing fear or anger, you probably need to do something to keep yourself or others safe. But if the fear or anger is being driven by past trauma rather than the present situation, or is out of proportion to any immediate threat, accessing a safe place can calm the hyperarousal reaction and get you back into the window of tolerance. Exercise 3, creating a safe place. Imagine a place where you can feel safe and with pleasant emotions attached. This can be a real place you know, an imaginary place you create, or a mix of the two. Others we have worked with have created desert islands, a warm submarine, a cozy shelter with a fire in a snowstorm, being held by a special being or protective animal, a forest setting, and so on. However, this is very personal imagery, so create it as you need to. Try the imagery out, spending at least a few minutes there. Does it work for you? If it does, then that's your safe place. Briefly describe your safe place below. Please pause the audio and complete exercise 3. Accessing a safe place won't be necessary if you are managing guidebook material without difficulties. However, if a particular section of reading or an exercise seems challenging, you can access your safe place to settle your physiology before doing the work. And if a section of the guidebook or an exercise winds you up into a state of hyperarousal, you can access your safe place afterwards to help you get back into your window of tolerance. If having or using a safe place seems silly, perhaps suspend judgment for a bit and see how it works in practice. Controlled breathing. When you get triggered into a state of hyperarousal, a lot is going on physically that you have little or no control over. If we said, hey, why don't you stop producing adrenaline, cortisol, and glucose and stop perspiring, you'd say, I don't think so. But breathing is a feature of a stress response which you can have voluntary control over. Alcohol, many street drugs, and most psychoactive medications act on your brain in ways that slow breathing. But you can act directly to slow your breathing. And when you slow your breathing, you start a feedback loop, which results in the physical reactions you don't have control over reducing as well. Exercise 4. Controlled breathing. Find a room where you can be alone and uninterrupted. Sit in a chair in a way which is comfortable, but also allows your back to be fairly straight, not slumped. Place the palm of one hand on your chest and the palm of your other hand over your stomach area. Your hands will be like a very inexpensive piece of biofeedback equipment because they will help you know what is happening with your breathing. Close your eyes and pay attention to your breathing, noticing what is happening with your hands as you do. Do this for at least a few minutes, or as long as you think is useful. When finished, answer the question below. What did you notice about your breathing, hands, and body? Was there something interesting about doing this? Please pause the audio and complete exercise 4. When you are triggered and get kicked into hyperarousal, you will begin pumping more oxygen into your system. More oxygen means being able to run, fight, or respond to an emergency. More oxygen also means more fear and or anger. However, if there is no good reason to run, fight, or respond, you want to reduce the amount of oxygen in your system. Do you know why some people breathe into a bag for a while to prevent a panic attack from occurring? If you breathe in and out of a bag, you are recycling your own carbon dioxide, the net result being less oxygen. You can use a bag in emergencies, but you don't need to if you just want to reduce fear or anger. You can manage by consciously slowing and deepening your breathing. We will describe 2 types of breathing: scared, angry breathing, and calm breathing. Your hands gave you some feedback about what was happening with your breathing. What you experienced may have been scared, angry breathing, or calm breathing, or perhaps it transitioned from one to the other. Scared or angry breathing feels like this. 1. The breaths come quickly and there is little or no gap between breaths. 2. The breaths seem shallow, not deep. 3. You are working not only to pull air in, but also to push it out. 4. You may notice that both upper and lower hands are moving. Calm breathing feels like this. 1. The breaths come more slowly, and there is a gap between the breaths. 2. The breaths are deeper. 3. Your diaphragm muscle, which you had your lower hand over, works to pull air in, but then just relaxes to let air out. 4. You should notice little or no movement in your upper hand and much more movement in your lower hand. Even though the breaths are deeper with calm breathing, the breaths come more slowly and there is a gap between the breaths, so the result is less oxygen. Reduced oxygen means a less subjective experience of fear or anger. It's really hard to have lower oxygen levels and still feel scared or angry. Now, please read the points above. Please reread the points above related to scared and calm breathing and do the exercise again, i.e., place your hands over your body, close your eyes, and pay attention to your breathing. This time, see if you can create calm breathing for yourself. Let your hands tell you how you are doing, and pay attention to the pace and depth of your breathing. When finished, answer the question below. What did you notice? How did it go? Please pause the audio and complete exercise 4. Practicing calm breathing in the privacy of your home can be helpful, but it misses the point in many circumstances. because much of the time you get kicked into hyperarousal when you are out in the world. You can think of practicing calm breathing in the privacy of your home as practice for doing it when you are out in the world. You may be in a store, at work, at school, walking the dog, or somewhere else. When feelings of fear or anger and the physical sensations that go with them come over you, pay attention to your breathing. If you're in a public place, you probably won't put your hands on your chest and stomach, but you can still pay attention to the intake and release of your breath. If it's scared breathing happening in the absence of any serious threat, see if you can take control and shift it into calm breathing. By really focusing on breathing, you are not only reducing oxygen levels, but also distracting yourself from whatever perception of threat was inducing fear. It's like a get to for the price of one deal. Realizing you can have direct control over hyperarousal states can increase confidence and hope. Also, many apps are available to help you slow and deepen your breathing. You can find them quickly using search terms such as breathing or breath pacer. They can be very supportive of this practice. Some thoughts on managing hypoarousal. In a state of hypoarousal, you may realize you are emotionally numb, disconnected from life or others, or switched off. Your body may be slumped and seem immobilized. If hypoarousal is occurring as a response to genuine threats which feel overwhelming, then this is serious and you need to get help so you can stay safe. However, if there are no genuine threats you are facing, hypoarousal may be a pattern of coping you just developed as a child. It may have helped you cope all those years ago, but today it may prevent you from accessing feelings or connecting with life or others. Perhaps you can't think clearly, act to get needs met, or focus on personal development. Below are a few ideas for shifting away from hypoarousal and moving into the window of tolerance. In hypoarousal, you may be immobilized or disconnected. Your breathing has slowed, and you can find you are sighing. Just moving your body will get breathing. Just moving your body will get breathing, related sensations, and some emotions flowing again. Walking, stretching, or any form of exercise can get physical sensations going. Hypoarousal means disconnecting from the world out there, and you may feel hypnotized by inner thoughts or images. Staying in the moment and reconnecting to the world and other people can shift you out of hypoarousal and into the window of tolerance. Just doing what is needed in the moment can help, whether it means washing the dishes, communicating with someone, etc. Using support from someone you trust. While every person who experienced childhood harm is unique, a common issue for many is that they have difficulties trusting others. In response to childhood experiences, they may have concluded that they should not show vulnerability, rely on others, or ask for help. If you are managing the guidebook on your own without encountering destabilization, that's fine. However, it can sometimes help to work with guidebook materials with someone you trust. We have known several clients over the years who have used this guidebook alongside a partner, friend, or family member. Jean experienced physical and emotional abuse within her family and sometimes would approach the guidebook with her partner Jim. Quote, "There are parts of the guidebook I don't mind dealing with on my own, but there are other sections I want to do with Jim. We sit on the couch just before dinner, and sometimes I read or he reads it if I ask him to. If something upsets me, I'll stop and talk about it. Jim doesn't say too much, but it helps with him just being there." End quote. Others using this program may not actually read the guidebook with someone else, but having someone they trust who they can talk to about it and about what they're learning or experiencing can help fend off destabilization. Having a plan for destabilizing experiences. Some individuals go through the program and remain relatively safe and stable. However, it's not unusual for others to encounter something in their lives or the program itself which throws them, i.e., is destabilizing or leaves a person feeling unsafe. Planning for such a possibility can be helpful. You and your clinician can agree on a plan together, but below is an opportunity to do some preparation for this conversation. Exercise 5. Planning for staying safe and stable. 1. What are the potential events which could trigger painful feelings or impulses? You know yourself and your life better than us, but consider getting bad news, being criticized, a new stressor concerning money or something else, dealing with people you care for, physical health issues, feeling depressed or hopeless, an argument with someone, bad memories from the past, relationship issues, etc. 2. How might you react to painful feelings or impulses in ways which could make things worse? Again, you know yourself best, but consider alcohol, drug use, self harming, social withdrawal, becoming aggressive, risky behaviors, quitting your therapy, etc. 3. If you begin to get overwhelmed with painful feelings and impulses, what are the healthiest ways to keep yourself safe and stable? Your facilitator and therapist may have ideas as well. Please pause the audio and complete exercise 5.